Hello and welcome to Full Tech Ahead. I'm your host, Amanda Razani, and I'm excited to be here today with Bruce Kornfeld. He is the Chief Product Officer for StorMagic. How are you doing today?
Good, Amanda. Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Well, can you share a little bit about StorMagic, what services you provide?
Yeah, so StorMagic is in the infrastructure space. So we provide on-prem virtualization and storage solutions for customers that are building tech on site, typically at the edge. So we're all about helping customers build that infrastructure to run applications and store data on premise at edge sites when they've chosen that the cloud can't solve all of their problems. So that's what we're all about.
Okay. So our topic, of course, today is the true cost of AI infrastructure and what IT leaders should know about this. So, can you share what is one reason why they may have chosen not to move to the cloud and stay on premise?
Yeah, so cloud has pretty much, as everyone knows, cloud has pretty much taken over the way that IT teams think about deploying applications. Um, there's lots of good reason for it. It's easy, it's fast, you need less people, all those reasons. But what happens is when end users are building infrastructure on premise at small sites at the edge, whether that's a manufacturing site, a retail store, a small doctor's office, a hospital, the list goes on and on and on, where they've made a determination that sometimes the cloud can't keep up. It's great, but there are some things where you need really fast performance. The latency of cloud is there. No matter how fast and how much money you spend with Cisco on networking gear, there's still going to be time to get ones and zeros from an edge site to a cloud. And sometimes applications need faster response time than that. And cloud can be very expensive. So there's a lot of movement on how do I build edge infrastructure? And I think the topic of today is going to come up is AI is one of those things that's causing this dilemma on how do I build infrastructure on-prem.
Yeah, absolutely. So when a company does make a decision to perhaps deploy at the edge, what are some of the tips that you have for them starting out?
Yeah. So, I mean, so first of all, typically at edge sites, there isn't a well-trained, experienced IT team. It's usually a small site where you just need a small amount of hardware installed and up and running. And that means plug in a power cord and the network cable and you're good to go. So the people aren't there for any sophisticated systems. So the first thing I would say is simplicity is king. How do we build a system that's super easy to get up and running and manage? Another one is cost. Yeah, it sounds great. Oh, we're going to build on-prem. It's the right thing to do because we need it because of decision making or AI or whatever the reasons are. But guess what? If you do what you used to do in the data center or copy a cloud infrastructure and try to build it on-prem, costs are going to be way too high. So you have to think about what can I do to keep my infrastructure costs super low? And then the other one is reliability, is just because you're saying goodbye to cloud for certain applications, they still need to run reliably and have that as close to 100% uptime as possible. And sometimes at the edge, that can be difficult. So you got to really think about how do I build that infrastructure so that it is super reliable and my applications can keep on running, even if weird things happen at the edge.
From your experience when it comes to implementing, are there any communication difficulties between departments? And what advice do you have for getting everyone on the same page?
Yeah. That can be a problem because I think what you'll find is that depending on the size of the organization. So if you're a small organization and you're dependent on third parties, like a lot of customers have integrators or VARs or resellers that help them with this. Maybe it's a little bit easier because they just say to their VAR, just build me something that works. So maybe the communication there isn't as hard. But if you're a larger organization where you've got an IT staff, maybe a corporate that's running a data center and multiple clouds, building an edge can be a little bit different. So there could be miscommunications, there could be disagreements on how to do it. So I guess the advice that I would give is to always think about the requirements way up front and make sure that you're not over specking or over engineering what is needed at these smaller sites. Make sure it's super clear. Get agreement early from the powers that be, whether they're your peers, your managers, or the data center people. Make sure everyone agrees, like, this is what we're trying to achieve at these smaller sites. Here's the tech stack that I believe we need. Have that conversation up front before it gets to be a massive communication issue.
So, and there are a lot of things to think about, like storage and compute, GPU, acceleration, that kind of thing. What advice do you have, and what is the overall footprint of this decision versus cloud?
Yeah. So, okay. So when you're renting cloud space, let's say, you have some control over what the architecture is, but typically that's the cloud provider's problem to figure out. When you're building infrastructure in a data center, that's your problem to figure out. And when you're building the edge, that's usually your problem to figure out as well. So I would say that the thing that I see on the server and the storage side is what infrastructure do we use? Typically, what we see is to not copy exactly what's happening in the cloud or the data center. And typically, in those bigger environments, they're using what used to be called, I think it's still called a three-tier architecture. You've got a rack of servers, you got massive storage, you've got network switches, and there's IT teams that know how to manage all of that and provide services. At the edge, you typically don't need that much compute power, that much storage. So what we see is a way to combine that all together into small footprint, and that's typically called HCI or hyperconverged infrastructure. And that basically means take a physical server, it's got disk drives in there already, it obviously has CPU. You run some kind of virtualization engine, so now you can have multiple virtual machines running on one platform. And you don't need lots of boxes. You typically need one, two, maybe three, and you have a data center in a very small footprint where you can do everything needed to support your applications, including AI. And that's something that's driving a lot of this is end users can't afford to build these massive AI infrastructures everywhere. Hyperconverged is a very low cost, simple way to deploy infrastructure, even for AI workloads.
Yeah, AI, of course, is a big topic on everyone's mind, how to handle
It
it.
gets
And
it gets more and more every week. It gets more and more, and deservedly so. It's real, and it's really impacting the economy, and it's awesome.
yeah, absolutely. So how can a company best track their return on investment and achieve their goals when it comes to edge?
Yeah. So if you're just talking about edge in general and deploying edge computing infrastructure, typically what we hear from our customers, and we provide assistance, StorMagic provides assistance to end users to really think about the total cost of ownership and ROI of what they're deploying. It typically comes down to compare your options, right? If you were to build proper infrastructure that you would use in a data center and try to do that at the edge, that could require three, four, five servers, let's say. That could require external storage, a SAN or a NAS or some kind of external storage device. The capital acquisition costs of that hardware, the maintenance of that hardware, having spares available nearby, whether that's in your own facility or your partner's facility. The cost of installing that and managing it and cabling it and supporting it and doing updates, all of the OpEx associated with that needs to be put together in a model or a spreadsheet, however you do it, but there's real costs there. And that should be compared against a hyper-converged infrastructure approach where everything is smaller. You have less physical gear to worry about. There's less interconnect. There's less people required. So customers can can pretty easily build a model, and there's vendors like us, like StorMagic, and there's others out there that can help with a comparison model. We actually have something on our website, if I get it right. I think it's stormagic.com/TCO, I believe, where there's models that customers can use to figure this all out. But yeah, building some kind of return on investment to make sure that you're investing the right way is super important because if you're not careful, you can spend more than you need to.
Do you have any specific use cases that you can share where edge-based AI has made a powerful impact?
Yeah, we're starting to see AI having a big impact. One of our biggest vertical markets is retail, and we're starting to see retailers, big and small, that are starting to have success with deploying AI at the edge. It's not easy to do. It's all new. Everyone's learning this as we go here. So building AI models to help retailers make decisions on customers, customer flow, inventory. Where's the best place to put inventory? If I have 20 retail stores, where's the best place to spread inventory? It used to be human beings looking at data, maybe nightly, but usually less than that. They would download a report, maybe they'd have a spreadsheet and they'd figure out where's the best place to put things. Now all of that decision making is happening on the fly with AI models helping figure out just as an example, where to put things. There's AI around video, analyzing video within the stores for theft prevention as well as for marketing reasons. Where's the best placement of products? There's a lot going on in the retail space for AI. And I would say that I think a lot of end users, whether it's retail or other, do struggle because I was going to say mantra, that's not the right word, but there's this belief in the industry, AI equals massive GPU farms in the cloud. And that's just not true. And there's ways to build infrastructure on-prem that doesn't require massive infrastructure and expensive GPUs.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Well, if there was one key takeaway you could leave our audience with today, what would that be?
Okay, well, I might stretch your question into two, if I may. So
Okay.
one thing is just to close on that last thought about GPUs. The trick, it's not really a trick, but the architecture that is starting to become prevalent at the edge these days around AI is that we don't need to run the massive L models on-prem. Those can stay in the cloud. That's where you need NVIDIA and Intel, and you need these massive server farms because that is a massive amount of data. But what smart IT teams are doing now is they're finding ways of downloading subsets of these models to the edge location where they believe that's enough information for them to use to get quick decision making on-prem at the edge. And there is software capabilities being built now so that if that query, if that AI decision can't be made with the data set that's local, then the software knows how to say, okay, I lost locally. I'm going to go find that information in the cloud. So at least you're keeping the fast real-time decision making local with smaller models. So you're doing inferencing local, but the learning and the massive amount of data is in the cloud. So there's a lot of evolution going on in this space, and that doesn't require GPUs. So customers, well, typically doesn't. Of course it can, but there are scenarios where the model's small enough and you can run that on standard servers with standard Intel or AMD CPUs locally. So that's how you avoid these massive costs of GPUs. Leave it in the cloud and do your local inferencing. Do it smartly with the right software architecture. So that's one thing I wanted to get across. And then to answer your question, the one takeaway I would say would be that building on-prem infrastructure for the edge doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be complicated. There are technologies out there like hyperconverged infrastructure, like I mentioned, using CPUs instead of GPUs locally for AI. There are smart ways to build infrastructure at the edge that achieves business goals, allows you to run your applications with significant uptime, and get your decisions made fast with AI without breaking the bank.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your tips and insights.
Anytime, Amanda. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you to our audience. Stay tuned. There's more.